Hi students, development of functional foods and nutraceuticals and how they are going to be sustained in the market is an important topic that you are going to learn in this module. Now the factors which will lead to a proper innovation or innovated product would be based on several factors. First is of course the food business operator looks for the profit, so whether the source is easily or cheaply available. Then from consumer point of view, how easy it is or a formula that can be consumed, which will then also take us to the issues of shelf life, stability and its interaction with other food components, etc. Both the nutrient component of the diet and the non-nutrients can be made into innovative product, both having their own goals. A food that can be consumed at a higher level or has to be consumed at a higher level can be made available in attractive forms, so the consumer can eat more of that food to derive a particular benefit. Or in the case of the nutraceutical products or the diet supplements, we may need to increase the intakes by the population of a particular component, so this type of preparations may be useful. Of course, the levels that are to be consumed will be prescribed and have to be mentioned on the labels. So you will be learning about the regulatory aspects concerned to labeling. So while developing a product, the manufacturer has to keep in mind how he is going to label the food, which differ from a little bit from different countries. And many of the countries in the world, they have their own guidelines which are prescribed by their regulatory food authority. And China is one country which requires special testing of all their products by authorized agencies. But in other countries, these testings can be done by any good accredited laboratories, and they have to be submitted then to their food authorities for approval and before they are made into a product or an innovation product is designed. So you will learn in detail about some of these aspects. Developing a new functional food is a very expensive process. There is a variety of diet supplements and functional foods that are available commercially. Many soy-based products are available with claims of health benefits. They are the source of phytoestrogen. One may also consume a fortified product, for example, a folate fortified cereal or a beverage. Consuming folate-rich cereal is an example of a food wherein a known nutrient is added to a food as fortificant and consumed to increase the intake level. Sometimes a new substance can be added to the diet, for example, Benicol, which is a stenol added to a biscuit. Vanaspati is fortified with vitamin D. Tocopherols milk can be fortified with more calcium. Fruit juices may have antioxidant. Probiotic containing yogurts are all available now in the market as functional foods. According to the Institute of Medicine USA, poor nutritional status of the elderly is a major health problem. The geriatric population also suffer from chronic diseases like cardiovascular disease, diabetes, osteoporosis, digestive disorders, poor gut health, dental problem, etc. They would consume or benefit some fortified foods and supplements to prevent or manage chronic diseases and may be used as health supplements. In the food business, innovation and differentiation of the products will give the competitive edge and create space for it in the market. It is not static but dynamic, and the producers keep innovating continuously to meet the consumer's demand and survive the competition. The components of the product or sometimes the level of nutrient that are added or concentrations of sugar and salt may be altered to make the product differentiated. The packaging technologies are also evolving rapidly to ensure food safety and salability. Food manufacturers also have to comply with food regulations for packaging and labeling. In order to innovate and bring forth new products, companies undertake detailed quantitative and qualitative market survey using forecasting techniques like Delphi, etc. to produce foods that have demand among the consumers. In the functional food market, the firms have to understand what kind of products would have appeal, who will be their customers, will it be the elderly or the children, etc. If the target population is children, they may have to make it sweet, tasty, or otherwise the children may reject it. If it is meant for old population who may have dental problem, product may have to be soft or liquid. In a country like ours, food manufacturers also have to keep in mind the weather conditions and transport. Milk and milk products that are made functional with added nutrient may have certain shelf life and may have to be stored at a specific temperature. That means the food business operator has to understand the market, consumer needs, and about the characteristics of the food. In India, the prevalence of diabetes is on the rise, therefore functional foods can be of immense use to the diabetics and it will be in demand. There is rampant deficiency of iron, vitamin B12 vitamins among women and children. Products with these two nutrients will be much in demand. Food manufacturers try to innovate their food products by changing their flavor, appearance, and forever try to enhance the consumer's acceptability in order to capture the market and increase their sale and profit. There are critical steps involved in the development of nutraceutical incorporated products. The Institute of Food Technology USA expert panel have identified as 7-step procedures that can be used as critical steps to design, develop, and market functional foods. The step 1 is the beneficial potential of a food ingredient must be understood and deciphered. The beneficial effect should be supported by scientific data that is validated. The data should be derived from by conducting experimental studies that are designed on sound statistical methodology. The test system chosen should be appropriate. Efficacy studies must be conducted in order to test the beneficial effects using the concentrations that would be required to produce a beneficial effect in humans. In this step, the biomolecule to be tested should be identified for its stability, shelf life, bioavailability, etc. Biomarkers are used to assess the blood levels of the biomolecule and estimate the intakes that are required to achieve needed tissue concentrations for their physiological role. The researcher must also have some information on the reference intakes of a given biomolecule by the population, and this will help in designing the appropriate doses. Step 3 is the safety assessment. Safety assessment has to be undertaken in order to assess if the food ingredient is safe for use as the effective dose and duration. The testing would have to be done for generally recognized as safe and or food additive as well as for any novel food ingredient. Caution must be exercised to avoid de novo formation of food allergen or any other contaminants due to processing of the food or the processing aid which is used in the production. Step 4 is the development of suitable food vehicle to deliver the bioactive component. Step 5 is to prove the efficacy by scientific data, that is proof of concept. The available data must be critically analyzed by a group of experts who are usually termed as generally recognized as effective, the GRAE panel. In every country, the food authority of the nation must give approval for claim if it is so required. In the label, the intended use as well as the benefit must be written. The last final step is to conduct the in-market confirmation of efficacy and safety, often called as the post-market surveillance. This should have the below mentioned criteria: monitor efficacy, monitor intake, monitor safety. This is done for most of the new drugs that are introduced. Then comes assessment of the stability and the bioavailability of the bioactive substances that are present in the food matrices. The added nutrient or the biomolecule must be stable in the food, which is used as a vehicle if they have to produce the desired effect. Therefore, shelf life and stability studies of the food and the fortificant both must be done. The added compound must be bioavailable, and therefore bioavailability or the bioequivalence must be carried out. These studies would involve analyzing the chemical and the physical forms of the added compound. Depending on this, the knowledge the product can be designed appropriately. Bioavailability of the food ingredient may be affected by its physical form, that is, depends on whether the molecules are coated, microencapsulated, emulsified, or modified, changed in some way. Some other factors like reconstitutions or formulations can also change its form that would affect the absorption and the utilization. For example, beta-carotene, which is a fat-soluble vitamin, does not mix in aqueous solutions. Therefore, it should be converted into particles, preferably, which can be miscible with the water. Some people have attempted to make it as a gel caps that can be then mixed in aqueous solutions. This processing also enhances its bioavailability. The bioavailability of the nutrient and the non-nutrient is altered according to the chemical form in which they are ingested. For instance, iron in the form of ferrous sulfate or ferrous citrate is better bioavailable than other forms like ferric chloride. The ferrous form is more readily absorbed than the ferric form. Therefore, in the preparation of double fortified salt, ferrous sulfate is used as a source of iron. Sometimes the ferrous form of iron can cause oxidative reactions in the food, resulting in color changes. Similarly, as a source of folic acid, folate tablets are given to treat anemia. Advances in food technology have also helped in product innovation or creation of new products. The food ingredients are not added simply to the food and mixed to make a functional food or a nutraceutical. They have their own technology which is involved in the preparation of the innovative products. Therefore, the food must undergo sensory evaluation by measurement of sensory appeal using hedonic scale and testing methods. The delivery of the desired functional component must be stable, and it should not react or undergo changes in the food matrix. Therefore, proper food processing methods must be adopted. For example, use of cranberries for prevention of urinary tract infection posed a challenge, as these fruits are very acidic and not acceptable. But using food processing method, it was converted to a more palatable form or product, after which the consumers could eat through a variety of food products. The high lipid insolubility of sterols and stanols initially limited their compatibility with many food products, but esterification has allowed them to be incorporated into fat-containing foods such as butter-like spreads and chocolates. Other examples are the case of fish oil and soya foods. Both omega-3 fatty acids and soy protein have offensive flavors and smell which are not accepted to many consumers. Therefore, it is difficult to motivate the consumers to accept these ingredients contained in the food products. New technologies to food industries have helped to microencapsulate omega-3 fatty acids, which can be then added to the breakfast foods. The soy products have been prepared using emerging technologies. These are breakfast cereals, milkshakes, yogurt, nuggets, and so on. A biomolecule can be coated with suitable material and prepared as nanoparticles. It protects the biomolecule in the food matrix and very much helpful to prepare the functional food. In Australia, the omega-3 fatty acids have been converted to nanoparticles and they are incorporated in the bread, and commercially these bread are available. This encompasses the stabilizing, protecting nutraceuticals from degradation during processing in the final product and during intestinal transit until they are released at the desired site in the gastrointestinal tract to impart their targeted health effects. Then there is also a technique known as the vacuum impregnation. Using this new technology, a beneficial food ingredient or nutraceutical can be delivered to the foods to make it functional. Using this technique, bioactive molecules can be introduced into fruits and vegetables. Selection of a food vehicle is also a very important step in the innovation, and the food vehicle should retain the properties of the bioactive compound, and its delivery at the desired site is very important. Different food matrix can be used as a food vehicle. The choice of food vehicle will determine the bioavailability of the molecule. For example, the plant stenol may be more effective in milk matrix than bread or cereal. Then comes formulation and blending. Formulation and blending constitutes a simple and cheap technology to develop new functional foods. It has been widely used for the successful control of deficiencies like vitamin A, vitamin D, several B vitamin deficiencies like thiamine, niacin, riboflavin, then iodine, iron, etc., which are micronutrients. The formulation techniques range from normal use of preservatives, essential oils, food acids, etc., to use of humectants to control the water activities. The fortification of food is another technology to make innovative products. Many vitamins are used as fortificants to fortify the cereals. Some of the examples are cereals with added vitamin B12 or iron or both, vanaspati and some fat spreads which are fortified with vitamin A, milk and some dairy products have added vitamin D. Addition of iodine to salt to prepare iodized salt and addition of iron and iodine to prepare the double fortified salt are known in India, and these products are intended to prevent goiter and anemia. Many components of the food are used in similar manner in the food processing industry. Another example is the use of lecithin or the phospholipid and fatty acids as emulsifiers or stabilizers which help in baking, etc. Lecithin is used as an emulsifier in the preparation of beverages and sauces. Anthocyanins are used as antioxidant and also to give a color. Gums are used as stabilizers in soups and beverages, and also they enhance the intake of fiber. So these are examples of the dual uses of some of the nutrient as well as the non-nutrients. This figure shows again example of a fortified products, a product, cereal product having B12 and then the oatmeal which has got folic acid. Then comes the effects due to food processing. The manner in which the food is processed would definitely alter the characteristics of the nutrients and other bioactive compound and its bioavailability if proper care is not exercised. Processing effects must be therefore very well understood by the food manufacturer while designing, evaluating its bioavailability and other biological effects of the functional food. Food processing may enhance the bioavailability of a molecule. For example, the bioavailability of lycopene from tomatoes and carotenoids in carrots are better bioavailable and absorbed when they are cooked in oil rather than in water. Efficacy studies using biomarkers also play a very important role, and it's an important essential step in producing the products with nutraceuticals. Effect of particular functional food ingestion should be assessed to know its effects, what we call as the efficacy studies. We may be able to measure the effect directly using surrogate or disease endpoint or biomarkers. For example, measurement of total cholesterol, serum low density lipoprotein and high density lipoprotein, etc. can be direct biomarkers to estimate the risk of cardiovascular disease. Measurement of glycosylated hemoglobin to know the control and management of blood glucose levels within acceptable limits is another example of surrogate biomarker. Criteria for evaluating the efficacy would thus depend on the clinical studies on the humans, and the best studies are those which follow a design using double-blind placebo-controlled randomized trial. These are the gold standard and given the most weight. If this kind of investigation is not possible, then data from epidemiological studies can be used as next best. Sometimes animal in vitro experiments can also be conducted to understand the mechanisms and the efficacy. Like for example, the bone mineral density can be measured by the DEXA or the dual X-ray absorptiometry. Similarly, serum levels of osteocalcin, bone-specific alkaline phosphatase, vitamin D, urinary measurement of hydroxyproline or cross-linked N-telepeptides of collagen type 1 can all be used as biomarkers of bone turnover. Therefore, this will help us in estimating the efficacy of the functional food with respect to that particular parameter or the disease. The quality of the evidence will depend upon testing of the hypothesis, which should be done using appropriated statistical design. Generally, studies to test efficacy must be conducted by placebo-controlled, double-blind, randomized trial. Duration of the study should be such that it is similar to human situation. Doses chosen should be also similar to what would be used in the human therapy or intended drug usage in human. Efficacy must be tested using appropriate effect biomarker. Data must be analyzed by validated statistical design, and data from studies conducted to substantiate a claim must be validated and also acceptable. There are guidelines for safety assessment, and these must include information on history of safe use, as in the case of conventional food. The dietary intake levels by population, including the age, gender, physiological status, frequency of the consumption, all should be taken into consideration while doing the safety assessment. The safety assessment would also involve a review of literature on related molecule or chemical substances that can be done in case of substances without a history of safe use and which are going to be called or claimed as novel foods. Taking into consideration the available data, studies should be conducted to estimate the availability, mechanism of action, half-life of the molecule, its dose responsiveness, acute and chronic toxicity, allergenicity, potential, and safety tests, etc. In humans, experimental animal, microorganism, and cell cultures. Allergen management is again very important. Foods may cause adverse immune reactions, which are broadly referred to as food allergen. They may occur due to natural compounds in food or formed during food processing. These are mostly the proteins in the food, and the food manufacturer must essentially follow good manufacturing practices as well as labeling ingredients that are required if it is suspected that a particular food may contain the known allergens. The benefits of consuming a product by the intended population should be communicated to the target population. This communication can be done by providing the required information on the package label, and other mass media tools can also be used. There are a number of research which are needed continuously to develop or innovate products. These are the epidemiological studies which have been shown to have some beneficial effects or reduction in the prevalence of chronic diseases by dietary components, consumption of whole grains, fruits, vegetables which supply phytonutrient to benefit human health status. Many biomolecules that are not nutrient can also function to promote good health. In-depth studies to understand their role and mechanism of action may be continued. Clinical epidemiological data, studies on new biomarkers can be carried out. Then effect of food matrix on the delivery and bioavailability of the compound should be studied well prior to product formulation. In this topic or module, you have learned about how designing a product is very important for both the industry and also for the consumer. Equally concerned are the regulatory or the governmental bodies which give the approval. Now, food trade is a global trade, so some of these functional foods or supplements can be prepared in one country and then sent to some other country. Then they have to follow the guidelines that operate in the importing countries and should have the approval of that particular regulatory authority. Most of these functional foods, nutraceuticals, are associated with some kind of beneficial effects, that is what the scientist calls as claims. The claims can be of many types: health related claims or nutrient function related claims, or there may be special medical foods, foods for special dietary uses, etc. Each category has its own labeling requirement. Nevertheless, all the countries by thumb rule give some labeling declarations about the content of protein, carbohydrate, fats, etc. in a particular order. So the product innovator has to also keep in mind about how he is going to do the labeling. Lastly, he should be able to satisfy the consumer and the government authorities as to how he has made that product and how beneficial it is to the particular consumer. That means he should provide data on toxicological studies, on efficacy studies, etc. The claims sometimes can also be based on authoritative statements that are published by the food authorities. So that makes the job of a food business operator very easy, and he can just see whether if his food product fits into some of these authoritative statements. Japan is a country which was a forerunner in the development of functional foods and has a huge market in all over the world for their functional foods and nutraceutical products.